these are wonderful places. They were. I mean, they still are for most of us. At least the potential is still there. But a lot of our potential was already realized, and now it's been completely squandered.
Before we change topics real quick, I would like to add that when I was in Mexico, I noticed one thing
Hmm.
is that they had family. They actually had a family bond, and families talked to families, neighbors talked to neighbors. Everyone looked out
Yeah,
for each other. The family
yeah.
divide in Mexico is very limited. Everybody's looked out for. Everybody cares for each other. Everybody hugs each other. Everybody is always with family. I noticed that Mexico has the family unit in order there. That's the number one thing I noticed. Number two, Mexico still has God. Mexico has God first still. And when I was in Mexico, I learned a lot of things about the culture. I mean, mind you, you don't learn a lot in 2 years, but I learned enough in the time I was there. In the village I lived
Yeah.
in, again, the village is called Juliantla. I was there, and I got out a lot from there. That was like my home base, and I would go out from there and go explore and look at different states and different states in Mexico, sorry, and drive to different places. I noticed that God was everywhere there. Guadalupe was everywhere there. People and family were always together there. I noticed that everywhere I went. It was always family, family parties, family gatherings, family. And that's what I
Hmm.
noticed, and I think Mexico still has God. And I think Mexico may still have a chance. They have the infrastructure, they got the roads, they got the food, they got everything they need there, right? It's just they need to stop with the pressure from the US, pressuring them from not being able to drill for their own oil, pressuring them.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to bring it up again, the Fast and Furious scandal. Obama's giving guns to drug cartels in Mexico to destroy the country, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. To keep it destabilized and controllable. Yes, that's basically it. And the same thing in a maybe a less kinetic way is happening in Canada too. Yeah. No, Mexico is no joke. The Mexican people are. I mean, really, when you get down to it, they're Europeans too. They're just from a different part of Europe than we are, but it's still European expansion, right?
Family mattered, and it
Um,
wasn't about the money.
yeah.
Family
Well,
mattered.
it used to matter here too, and it seems that it doesn't anymore. But there's something about the Anglo world, and I guess you'd include Western Europe and the other vassal states of the Anglo-American Empire. So I guess you could include Japan and South Korea, have been infected with luxury beliefs. When you think of how hard life was 100 years ago, people were predicting what, for example, socialism or the suffragette movement would do to our societies. But the reality is, most people, even after a couple of world wars and a depression, what did they want to do? They wanted to get married, buy a little house in one of these brand new suburbs, and have a family. No, even the first half of the 20th century didn't manage to uproot the central family structure of, the Western world. It wasn't until things were sufficiently comfortable and those post-war children had come of age, and things were really starting to expand. I mean, I've always said it's not so much that the boomers rode a wave as they were the wave. Um, that these things became believable. They became possible. But a lot of it was pounding on narratives of injustice that weren't there.
Yeah.
They really weren't. You say, okay, well, let's have a new accommodation. Let's have a new accommodation between the races. Let's have a new accommodation between the genders. Let's have a new accommodation between the people, the governed, and the governments, right? But this was all lies. It was never about making some new or fair or more equitable arrangement. It was to exacerbate possible divisions and exploit them, to basically milk us as cattle. It's not that we're declining. We're being murdered by slow poison. We could bounce back rather quickly if the people picking those scabs were removed from the picture.